Miami. Morning sunlight spilled through the glass facade of JJ Aesthetics and Spa, painting the marble floor in shades of gold. The clinic glowed with modern elegance, all white, all calm, a quiet symphony of whispered greetings and soft background music. Behind the reception desk, Pamela, 21, adjusted her uniform, smiling nervously as she greeted a new client. Across the lobby, Dr. Jenny Jackson moved with unshakable poise, a woman whose silence carried authority, dark skin, minimalist clothes, a presence that filled the space without trying. She had built that clinic from the ground up. Every lamp, every mirror, every carefully chosen scent was part of her story. Then the glass doors opened. Heels clicked against the marble like gunshots. Lana Stewart, tall, blonde, expensively dressed, stormed in with a face that looked allergic to patience. She didn't even glance at the reception desk before snapping, "Excuse me? Does anyone plan on serving me today, or is this some kind of community clinic?" Pamela froze. "Good morning, ma'am. Do you have an appointment?" "Of course I do," Lana hissed. "My husband paid for a full-year package, but apparently that doesn't guarantee competence." Jenny heard the tone. She didn't need to turn to know the type. She stepped out of her office, calm, composed. "Good morning, I'm Dr. Jenny Jackson. How can I help you, Mrs. Stewart?" Lana's expression changed for a split second. Then came the sneer. "Oh, you're the doctor?" "Yes," Jenny replied gently. "You must be here for your first session." Lana's eyes scanned Jenny from head to toe. The simple black blouse, the unbranded shoes, the calm eyes. "You look casual for a doctor in Miami." "Comfort helps me focus on my patients," Jenny replied, unbothered. Lana gave a short, sarcastic laugh. "Right. Well, I hope you're better with needles than with fashion." Pamela's face flushed. Jenny didn't react. She'd seen arrogance before, but there was something sharper here, a venom Lana wasn't even trying to hide. Jenny gestured toward the hallway. "Please follow me. Let's get started." As they walked, Lana muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "I still can't believe my husband paid top dollar for a place like this. Doesn't even look like the ones in Beverly Hills." Pamela clenched her hands behind the desk. Jenny simply opened the door to the consultation room. Inside, the soft scent of eucalyptus filled the air, calm against the storm that had just entered. Lana sat down, crossing her legs dramatically. "Let's be quick. I have lunch at the Mirage in an hour. I don't do waiting." Jenny nodded, powering on her tablet. "Of course. I'll just need a few details before we begin." Lana sighed impatiently, flipping her hair. Look, can we skip the formalities? You people love making everything so complicated." Jenny looked up, her tone still calm, but her eyes sharp as glass. "You people?" Lana froze for half a second. "Oh, don't twist my words. I meant doctors." But the damage was done. Jenny had seen it. Pamela had heard it. And the quiet elegance of the clinic suddenly felt heavier. Jenny took a deep breath. "Mrs. Stewart, I assure you, my goal is to give you the best treatment possible, but mutual respect is part of that process." Lana smirked. "Respect is earned, sweetheart. Let's see if you can earn mine." The silence after that was deafening. Jenny simply turned on the treatment light, her movements steady, graceful even. Her calm wasn't submission. It was control. Outside, Pamela stood by the desk, heart pounding. She didn't know it yet, but that morning would change everything. The clinic, the city, their lives. And before the day ended, everyone in Miami would know the name Dr. Jenny Jackson. The treatment room was silent, filled only with the hum of soft ambient music. Jenny adjusted her gloves, her movements precise and professional. Lana sat in the reclined chair, scrolling through her phone, barely looking up. "You'll feel a slight pressure," Jenny said gently, preparing the injection. Lana didn't respond. She was too busy recording a selfie video. Hey guys, she whispered into her phone camera. I'm at this new clinic my husband found. It's, well, let's just say, not what I expected. Jenny froze mid-movement, the words hitting her like a cold wind. Still, she said nothing. She focused on her work. When she finished the first application, she wiped the area carefully. All done here. How do you feel? Lana glanced at her reflection in the mirror, frowned, and scoffed. I feel like I just wasted my time. Oh. Jenny removed her gloves calmly. You might experience minor swelling for a few hours. That's normal. Oh, honey, Lana said with a fake smile. What's not normal is paying luxury prices to be treated by… She paused deliberately. You. Jenny looked up. I beg your pardon? Lana stood, crossing her arms, the diamond bracelets glinting under the LED lights. I said, maybe you should stick to salons in your own neighborhood. This is a medical spa, not some discount beauty parlor. The room went cold. Jenny's jaw tightened. Her voice, however, remained calm, controlled. Mrs. Stewart, I don't think this conversation is appropriate. Appropriate? Lana laughed, sharp and cruel. You think you can teach me manners? Please, I could buy this entire place before lunch. Jenny took a breath, trying to end it. I believe this appointment is over. Lana stepped closer, invading her space. Don't walk away when I'm talking to you. Mrs. Stewart. I said shut up! The slap came out of nowhere, fast, loud, echoing across the sterile white walls. Jenny stumbled backward, her cheek burning, the metallic taste of blood touching her lips. The room froze. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world had gone silent, except for the sound of Jenny's steady breathing. Pamela, hearing the noise, burst into the room. She froze at the sight. Her boss, motionless, with a red mark spreading across her face. Dr. Iki. Jackson? She whispered, terrified. Jenny raised a hand, signaling her not to move. Then she straightened, slow and deliberate. Her expression wasn't anger. It was something deeper, like a calm before a storm. She picked up a tissue, dabbed the blood from her lip, and looked at Lana. You just made a very big mistake, Jenny said quietly. Lana scoffed, flipping her hair. Oh, please. What are you going to do? Call the police? I'm friends with half of them. Pamela clenched her fists, trembling. Jenny, however, didn't shout, didn't react. She simply pressed the tissue to her cheek and whispered almost to herself, Some storms don't need thunder, they end with silence. She turned to Pamela. Call security. Escort Mrs. Stewart to the lobby. Lana laughed, but it sounded nervous now. You can't tell me what to do. Jenny turned back, eyes sharp as glass. Actually, I can. Lana blinked. Something in Jenny's tone, calm, absolute, made her step back. Pamela's voice cracked as she called through the intercom. Moments later, 2 security guards entered, confusion in their eyes. Jenny simply said, Please show Mrs. Stewart the way out. Her treatment is over. Lana tried to protest, but the guards gently guided her toward the door. The sound of her heels faded down the hallway. When the door finally closed, Pamela exhaled shakily. Are you okay? Jenny nodded once. Yes, but the city's about to learn something new about power. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. The blood on her lip, the handprint still visible on her cheek, and she whispered, They think silence is weakness. Let's show them what silence can do. The camera would have cut there, a close-up of her face, steady and unbroken, the beginning of a reckoning. The door slammed behind Lana Stewart, her perfume still lingering in the air, like a toxic memory. Pamela stood frozen by the sink, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Dr. Jackson. Jenny didn't answer. She was still staring at her reflection in the mirror, at the red print blooming across her cheek like fire. The silence in the room was heavy. Even the music from the lobby seemed to fade. Jenny's voice finally broke the stillness. Calm, cold. Pamela, document everything. Time, date, witnesses. Pamela blinked. Should I call the police? Jenny turned to her, eyes steady as steel. No, not yet. A pause. This won't be handled in anger. It'll be handled in truth. She walked toward the door, every movement deliberate, her posture straight, her breathing even. Pamela followed behind, still shaking. Outside the clinic had fallen into a strange silence. The other staff members had heard the commotion but didn't dare speak. Jenny's calm presence cut through the tension like a blade. She walked to the reception desk. Clients in the waiting area looked up, curious. Jenny smiled politely, even as blood still traced her lip. Pamela, please reschedule all my appointments for the day. Yes, doctor. Jenny turned to Thomas, the clinic's manager, who had just arrived, eyes wide. Something happened? Jenny simply nodded. A lesson. A lesson? Yes, she said softly, wiping the corner of her mouth. About who people become when they think no one is watching. Thomas looked toward the hallway where the incident had happened. Do you want me to call legal? Jenny hesitated, then nodded once. Yes, and also, find out who exactly Lana Stewart is married to. By late afternoon, the clinic was closed to the public. Security footage was reviewed. Pamela had written a full report. Jenny sat in her office, ice pressed to her cheek as Thomas briefed her. Her husband's name is David Stewart, he said carefully. Real estate developer. Big money. They've got connections all over Miami's elite circle. Donors, politicians, even media outlets. Jenny didn't flinch. So someone who believes money buys morality. Thomas sighed. Something like that. But, Jenny, this could get ugly. If she spins this first, she'll make you look like the aggressor. Jenny leaned back, the ice melting between her fingers. Let her talk. You sure? Absolutely. Sometimes the truth doesn't need defense. It just needs time. She stood walking to the window. The Miami skyline glowed orange with sunset. In the glass reflection, her face looked calm, regal even, despite the mark. Her silence wasn't defeat. It was strategy. Pamela entered with her phone in hand. Doctor, you might want to see this. Jenny took the phone. On the screen, a post. Lana Stewart's Instagram story, already spreading like wildfire. When luxury clinics hire unqualified staff, this is what happens. So unprofessional. Never again. Attached, a blurred photo of the clinic hallway, and Jenny's silhouette in the corner. Thomas swore under his breath. She's twisting it already. Jenny studied the post quietly, then handed the phone back. Good. Good? Pamela asked, stunned. Jenny nodded, her tone icy calm. Because now she's told the world she was here. Thomas frowned. And that helps us how? Jenny turned, her gaze sharp. Because when the truth comes out, everyone will know exactly who she hit. The lights dimmed as the sun disappeared behind the skyline. Jenny stood by the window, the city lights reflecting in her eyes like fire. Her voice was low but certain. You can't silence someone who's already learned to speak without shouting. The camera would have pulled back slowly, showing her standing alone in the office, Miami glittering behind her. A woman humiliated, yes, but unbroken, and quietly, preparing for war. The next morning, JJ Aesthetics and Spa looked exactly the same. Pristine, white, calm. But beneath the surface, tension pulsed like electricity under marble. Jenny arrived early, wearing a cream blazer and gold-rimmed glasses, her cheek almost fully healed. Every step she took through the clinic was quiet but deliberate, like someone preparing for battle in silence. Pamela greeted her with coffee and a nervous smile. We've received 3 appointment cancellations and 2 new bookings. Jenny raised an eyebrow. 2? Yes, one from the mayor's wife. The other, From a producer at Channel 7. She said she wants to meet the woman everyone's talking about. Jenny smiled faintly. Interesting. Let's make sure she's treated like any other client. Pamela blinked. Even if she's from the media. Especially then. Jenny took her coffee and walked toward her office. Inside, sunlight poured across her desk. Neat, minimalist, intentional. She sat, opened her laptop, and read the emails waiting for her. Half were supportive. The other half, venom disguised as advice. You should just let this go. Clients like that pay the bills. Don't make this about race. Jenny leaned back, exhaled slowly, and whispered to herself, They always say that. When it's not their skin. Her phone buzzed. It was Thomas. You'll want to see this, he said over speaker. On the office TV, the morning news was already replaying a viral clip from Lana Stewart's story. Her crying, her dramatized version of events. I was just trying to get a service, and she attacked me verbally. I felt unsafe. Pamela groaned. Unbelievable. She's actually playing the victim. Jenny didn't look angry. She looked thoughtful. Let her. Every liar forgets something. The truth. She turned off the TV and closed her eyes for a moment. The sound of the air conditioning filled the silence. Then she opened a drawer. Inside was a silver flash drive labeled Security Footage 09 to 12. Jenny stared at it, her reflection gleaming in the metal surface. That little device held everything. The slap, the words, the proof. Thomas stepped inside. Are you ready to release it? Jenny shook her head. Not yet. I want them to underestimate me first. Thomas hesitated. You're playing a long game, huh? Jenny smiled, a mix of pain and precision. The loudest sound in a storm is the moment before thunder. Later that day, Jenny walked through the clinic's garden terrace, a quiet escape filled with orchids and sunlight. Pamela followed, notebook in hand. Doctor, what if this gets worse? What if she sues? Jenny stopped beside the fountain, watching the water ripple. Then she'll face me in court, and the truth will be the only witness I need. Pamela nodded, inspired, but worried. You're not scared? Jenny looked up at the Miami sky. Wide, blue, endless. Of her, no. Of silence, always. The two women stood there for a moment, one young, uncertain, the other seasoned and unshaken. Then Jenny's phone buzzed again. An unknown number. She answered. Dr. Jackson speaking. A man's voice, smooth and professional. Good morning, doctor. My name is Mark Reyes, senior producer at Miami Today. We'd like to invite you for an exclusive interview to tell your side of the story. Jenny smiled slightly. I wasn't aware there were sides, only facts. Maybe, Mark replied, but right now the city's listening to the wrong version. Jenny's eyes darkened, the faintest smile tugging at her lips. Then maybe it's time they heard the right one. She ended the call, turned to Pamela, and said simply, Get the studio ready. We're not hiding anymore. Pamela's eyes widened. Are you going public? Jenny nodded slowly, her voice calm but charged. If they want a show, let's give them one worth remembering. The camera would have followed her as she walked back into the clinic, sunlight catching her figure, a woman stepping out of silence and into her power. Night fell over Miami like velvet, soft, glowing, electric. The skyline shimmered in reflections of gold and blue. Inside the Miami Today studio, the air buzzed with quiet anticipation. Cameras rolled, lights adjusted, the producer gave a final cue, and then Dr. Jenny Jackson walked onto the set. She wore a white suit, simple, elegant, the color of peace and defiance. Her hair pulled back, her face calm. The faint mark on her cheek was gone, but the memory of it lingered in her eyes. The interviewer, Mark Reyes, stood to greet her. Dr. Jackson, thank you for coming. Jenny smiled lightly. Thank you for inviting me. They sat across from each other, a glass table between them. The red recording light blinked on. Mark began carefully. "Doctor, Miami has been following your story closely. Some say you were attacked. Others say it was a misunderstanding. What really happened that day?" Jenny didn't rush to answer. She folded her hands, looked straight into the camera, and spoke softly. "What happened that day wasn't about a slap. It was about something deeper, about how easily people forget respect when they think they're more powerful than you." The studio went still. Mark leaned forward. "You're saying it was about race?" Jenny hesitated for only a heartbeat. "It was about assumption. The assumption that my skin defines my competence, that humility means weakness, that if I stay calm while being insulted I must accept it. I don't." Her voice was low but firm, each word cutting through the air like glass. Mark nodded slowly. "And what did you feel in that moment?" Jenny exhaled, her gaze distant, not broken, just remembering. I felt sadness, not for me, but for her. Because hate shrinks the world of the one who carries it." There was silence in the studio, the kind that doesn't demand more words. Mark shifted slightly. "You could have pressed charges immediately. Why didn't you?" Jenny's expression softened. "Because anger's easy, but change takes strategy, and I wasn't interested in revenge. I was interested in truth." Mark paused, impressed. "Do you regret not responding sooner?" Jenny smiled faintly. "No, silence is never weakness when you choose it. I was quiet because I wanted to see how far lies travel before truth catches up." Behind the glass, producers exchanged glances. This wasn't just an interview, it was a moment. Mark's next question was cautious. "Mrs. Stewart's legal team claims she was provoked. Do you have proof that contradicts her statement?" Jenny looked into the camera, her eyes calm but burning with certainty. She reached into her blazer pocket and placed a small silver flash drive on the table. "I do." Mark blinked. "Is that—" "The clinic's security footage. Unedited. Unaltered. With audio." The crew froze. The camera zoomed in on the flash drive, gleaming under the studio lights like a quiet weapon. Jenny leaned forward slightly. "She told her story. Now it's time for the truth to speak for itself." The lights seemed to hum louder. Mark whispered, almost reverently, "Dr. Jackson, do you realize this could change everything?" Jenny looked straight into the lens, her voice steady as the ocean. "That's the point, isn't it?" The red recording light flickered out. Silence. Everyone in the studio knew they'd just captured something rare. Not just a statement, but history. As Jenny stood, a producer whispered to another, "She didn't raise her voice once." The other replied, eyes wide, "She didn't have to." Jenny walked out of the studio into the warm Miami night. The city lights shimmered against her white suit. She looked up at the skyline, the same one she'd built her dreams under, and whispered, "They wanted silence. They'll get truth instead." The camera would have followed her into the darkness, her reflection glowing against the glass doors. A woman who had just lit the fuse of a revolution. Morning came with fire. Miami woke up to headlines. Every local outlet, every feed, every screen carried the same image. Dr. Jenny Jackson, poised, calm, her white suit glowing under studio lights, a single silver flash drive gleaming between her fingers. The truth is about to speak. That line was everywhere. By 9 a.m., the footage had leaked. Clips of the security recording flooded Twitter, TikTok, and TV news within minutes. The slap, the insult, the arrogance. Everything was there, clear, undeniable. Lana Stewart's words echoed through millions of screens. "Shut up, you people don't belong here." The world stopped. And then it roared. At JJ Aesthetics and Spa, Pamela's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. "Doctor, it's insane. People are booking appointments just to meet you. We're trending in 5 countries." Jenny barely looked up from her laptop. Her face was serene, but her hands moved with precision, responding to emails from lawyers, community leaders, and even hospital administrators offering partnerships. "Pamela," she said quietly, "breathe. It's just noise." Pamela laughed nervously. "Noise? It's a revolution." Jenny smiled faintly. "Revolutions don't start with noise. They start with truth. And truth is quiet." She stood gazing out the window. Outside, the street was filled with reporters, cameras, and supporters holding signs. Some read, "Justice for Jenny." Others said simply, "Respect has no color." Thomas entered, breathless. "Lana's legal team just issued a statement." Jenny turned, calm. "Let me guess. Denial?" Thomas nodded. "They claim the video's been edited, that it's fake." Jenny almost laughed. "Of course they do. When you can't defend your behavior, you attack the evidence." Pamela frowned. Should we respond publicly?" Jenny shook her head. "No, not yet. Let them dig their own hole." Her phone buzzed again. A call from an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Dr. Jackson speaking." A woman's voice came through. Nervous, emotional. "Dr. Jackson, my name is Tara Holmes. I work at the Stewart residence. I was there that day when she came home." Jenny's expression shifted, calm curiosity laced with intuition. "Go on." "She laughed about it, doctor. Said she put you in your place." A pause. "I can testify if you need me to." Jenny exhaled softly. "Thank you, Ms. Holmes. That means more than you know." When the call ended, she sat down, quiet. Pamela watched her, puzzled. "You look almost sad." Jenny stared at the city skyline, her reflection shimmering on the glass. Because no matter how much truth you reveal, hate always thinks it's still winning. By evening, the footage had reached national news. CNN, NBC, even BBC. Clips of Jenny's interview were being replayed side by side with the footage from the clinic. Commentators debated, influencers reacted, lawyers analyzed. At the Stewart residence, chaos reigned. Lana sat in her penthouse living room, hands trembling as her phone exploded with notifications. David Stewart paced back and forth, his face pale. "You told me it was nothing, Lana. A misunderstanding." "It was. She provoked me." David cut her off. You called her trash on camera. Do you have any idea what you've done to us?" He turned the TV toward her. Jenny's calm, powerful face filled the screen. "Sometimes silence is the loudest truth." Lana's voice cracked. "She's destroying me." David's reply was cold. "No, Lana. You destroyed yourself." Meanwhile, back at the clinic, Jenny sat alone in her office. The noise outside by reporters, phones, applause, faded into a distant hum. She took off her glasses, rubbing her temples. Her reflection in the darkened window looked almost unreal. The same woman who'd been slapped, now commanding a movement. Pamela appeared at the door. "Doctor, how does it feel? The whole world's on your side?" Jenny smiled softly. "It's not about sides, Pamela. It's about balance. For every voice that tries to silence another, there has to be someone brave enough to speak." The lights dimmed, the city glowing behind her. Jenny picked up the silver flash drive again, holding it between her fingers like a reminder. Or maybe a weapon turned into peace. "They told me to shut up," she whispered. "Now they're all listening." The camera pulled back slowly, capturing the glow of the Miami skyline outside her window. The world had changed, and so had she. The following week, Miami wasn't just watching, it was dividing. The slap had turned into a storm. Talk shows, radio hosts, and podcasts dissected every frame of the video. Some called Jenny a hero. Others, mostly the rich and the fragile, called her dramatic, opportunistic, too calm to be a victim. Jenny ignored it all. Or at least, she tried to. Inside JJ Aesthetics and Spa, business was booming. every appointment booked, every seat filled. But the silence between the team told another story, the kind that hides beneath applause. Pamela scrolled through her phone nervously. "Doctor, have you seen this?" Jenny didn't look up from her tablet. "Another opinion piece?" "Not exactly." Pamela hesitated. "It's from the Social Review. They're questioning if the video was staged. They're calling it the slap for fame." Jenny finally looked up. Her calm expression didn't change, but her eyes hardened. "Let them write. The truth doesn't disappear just because people are uncomfortable with it." Pamela sighed, frustrated. "But it's unfair. They're trying to twist everything you've done." Jenny stood, crossing to the window. Outside, reporters were still camped out, their cameras aimed at the glass. "Fairness isn't promised, Pamela, but integrity. That's my choice." Meanwhile, across town, Lana Stewart was unraveling. Her PR team sat around her marble kitchen island, laptops open, phones ringing nonstop. David Stewart, now visibly exhausted, kept his distance. "Yithai, you need to apologize publicly, Lana," her manager said. "Apologize? To her?" The manager sighed. "She's become a symbol. You're fighting a movement, not a person." Lana's voice cracked with panic. "But I'm not a monster. I didn't mean—" David cut in sharply. "You meant every word, Lana. You just didn't mean to get caught." Silence. The weight of truth hit her harder than the headlines ever could. Back at the clinic, Jenny's phone buzzed again. A new email. Anonymous. "You think you're a hero, but you're just using race to sell treatments. You'll never belong with the real elite." She read it twice, then deleted it. Her hands trembled slightly before she steadied them on the desk. Thomas entered, carrying a thick folder. Legal sent over the first draft of the settlement proposal. Jenny raised an eyebrow. "Settlement? I'm not suing her." Thomas hesitated. "Jenny, she hit you, on camera. You could own half her world right now." Jenny smiled faintly. "Oh, I don't want her world. I'm building mine." Thomas exhaled, defeated but admiring. "You're unbelievable, you know that?" Jenny looked at him, her eyes calm but fierce. "No, Thomas, I'm just tired of fighting small battles in other people's wars." That night, a storm rolled in over Miami, thunder flashing across the ocean. Jenny sat in her office, lights dimmed, watching rain streak down the glass. She replayed the security footage one last time. The slap, the silence, the look in Lana's eyes, not power but fear disguised as arrogance. She paused the video, whispered quietly, "You taught me everything I needed to know." Her reflection stared back, strong and unbroken. Pamela knocked softly. "Doctor, there's a journalist here asking for a comment about the backlash." Jenny stood smoothing her suit jacket. "Tell them I said one thing." Pamela nodded. "What should I tell them?" Jenny smiled, that same calm, controlled, devastating smile. "Tell them I don't speak backlash, I speak results." The next morning, her quote was everywhere. "I don't speak backlash, I speak results." Dr. Jenny Jackson trended again, but this time not as a victim, as a visionary. The woman they tried to silence had learned the most dangerous language of all, the language of grace with power. It was almost midnight when the call came. Jenny was at home, barefoot, wrapped in a linen robe, reviewing clinic reports on her laptop. Her living room was quiet, modern, minimal, like the woman herself. Only the hum of the ocean outside broke the stillness. Her phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Dr. Jackson speaking." A woman's voice came through, anxious, rushed. "Dr. Jackson, my name is Melissa Clark. I'm a reporter for the Miami Herald. I'm calling because something's happening." Jenny frowned. "What kind of something?" "People are digging into the Stewarts' finances. There are accusations, tax evasion, discrimination suits, even falsified charity funds. And guess what? Your interview lit the match. Jenny was silent for a moment. You're saying... I'm saying you didn't just expose a slap, Doctor. You cracked open an empire. The call ended. Jenny stood by the window, the city lights flickering across her face. For a long moment she didn't move. Then slowly, a faint smile appeared. So this is how truth travels. The next morning, the Herald published the story. Stewart Empire under investigation, triggered by viral discrimination case. Within hours, the internet exploded again. David Stewart's company stocks plummeted. Brand sponsors cut ties. And for the first time, Lana Stewart vanished from social media. At the clinic, Pamela rushed into Jenny's office, eyes wide. "Doctor, look at this." Jenny looked up from her computer. Pamela turned her phone toward her. Live footage from outside the Stewart mansion. Reporters, protesters. Signs reading, "Accountability has no price." Thomas leaned against the door frame, stunned. "This is bigger than anyone expected." Jenny closed her laptop gently. "It always is. Truth doesn't knock, it breaks doors." Pamela hesitated. "Aren't you angry at them after everything?" Jenny shook her head. "Anger would make me like them. I prefer impact." By noon, Jenny received a formal request, an invitation to speak at the Miami Women's Leadership Forum. The email subject line read, "We'd be honored if you'd share your story." She read it twice before responding simply, "I'll be there." Pamela looked over her shoulder, excited. "You're actually doing it? Speaking publicly?" Jenny nodded, calm but resolute. "It's time. People keep talking about the slap. I want to talk about what comes after." That evening, the forum was packed. Hundreds of women, executives, artists, nurses, mothers, filled the glass-walled auditorium overlooking the bay. Camera crews lined the back wall. Jenny walked onto the stage in a soft ivory suit, the crowd rising to its feet. For a moment, she just stood there, looking at them. Thousands of faces, all watching, all waiting. Then she began. "A few months ago, someone told me to shut up." The room fell into complete silence. And I almost did, because that's what we're taught, to stay quiet, to be polite, to survive. Her voice grew steadier, the quiet power of conviction in every syllable. But I learned that silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's surrender. The women in the audience listened, unmoving. Jenny's tone deepened. "That slap didn't define me. It revealed me. It reminded me that dignity isn't given. It's lived." Applause rippled through the hall. She smiled, just slightly. And if my story means anything, it's that you don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to stand." The applause grew louder, a standing ovation this time. Jenny closed her eyes for a moment, taking it in. It wasn't fame. It was freedom. After the event, Mark Reyes from Miami Today caught up with her backstage. "Dr. Jackson," he said, smiling, "you just broke the internet again?" Jenny chuckled softly. "Let's hope this time it's for something worth hearing." Mark leaned closer. What's next for you?" Jenny thought for a moment, her gaze steady. "Next? I build something that outlives the noise." The camera would have followed her walking out of the forum, the night wind blowing through her hair. A symbol of quiet power walking straight into destiny. The city had never seen anything like it. From Brickell to South Beach, every screen, cafe TVs, salon monitors, office lobbies, was tuned to The Miami Spotlight Live. The teaser headline glowed in gold. Tonight, the woman who redefined power, Dr. Jenny Jackson. Inside the studio, the set gleamed under warm lights. Rows of audience members whispered in anticipation, camera flashes streaking across the room like lightning. Backstage, Jenny sat in front of the mirror, perfectly still, The makeup artist dabbed her cheek lightly. "You're trending again, Doctor." Jenny smiled faintly. "Let them talk. Tonight I'll do the listening." She wore a deep navy suit, simple, structured, with quiet authority. Her only jewelry, a gold pin shaped like a sunrise, the symbol of her new beginning. The producer leaned in. "We go live in 30." Jenny nodded, closing her eyes. She breathed in slowly, inhaling calm, exhaling history. The lights dimmed. The host, Alicia Munro, stepped onto the stage to applause. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's guest needs no introduction. A doctor, entrepreneur, and the woman at the center of one of the most powerful social awakenings this city has ever witnessed. Please welcome Dr. Jenny Jackson." The crowd rose to its feet. Applause thundered. Jenny walked onto the stage, poised, graceful, her steps deliberate. Every camera in the room turned to her. She took her seat across from Alicia, who smiled warmly. "Dr. Jackson, thank you for being here." Jenny returned the smile. "Thank you for inviting me. It's good to speak, not shout." The audience chuckled softly. Alicia leaned forward. "When that video surfaced, people saw violence, but they also saw strength. How did you stay so calm?" Jenny took a moment before answering, her voice steady but tender. "Calm isn't the absence of emotion, it's the presence of purpose. That day I realized the difference between being humiliated and being awakened." The audience fell silent again, captivated. Alicia nodded. "You've been called a symbol of grace under fire. Do you see yourself that way?" Jenny smiled softly. "No. I see myself as a reminder that dignity is louder than any insult." Applause rippled through the room, quiet but powerful. Then Alicia's tone shifted slightly, the question everyone was waiting for. "Mrs. Stewart has gone silent since the scandal. If she were watching right now, what would you say to her?" Jenny's expression changed. Not anger, not pride, something gentler, a kind of strength that only forgiveness can hold. "I'd say, I hope you heal, because hate is heavy, and when you finally put it down, you realize how much lighter life can be." A murmur moved through the audience. Some wiped tears. Even Alicia was visibly moved. "You're not angry?" she asked softly. Jenny shook her head. "Anger burns fast. I prefer fires that warm instead of destroy." Alicia paused, then smiled. "That's beautiful." Jenny looked out at the audience, rows of faces lit by studio light. "I'm not here to rewrite anyone's reputation. I'm here to remind people that respect isn't a privilege, it's a baseline." The applause this time was thunderous. Not the applause of entertainment, but of realization. Alicia's voice broke slightly as she closed. "Dr. Jackson, you didn't just survive that moment. You changed what survival looks like." Jenny's eyes softened. "Maybe, but if my story matters, it's because it's not just mine." Alicia tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Jenny leaned closer, her tone low and intimate. "Every person who's ever been told to stay quiet, to shrink, to disappear, they're the real story. I just gave them a mirror." The audience erupted again, some standing, some crying. The camera zoomed in slowly on her face, calm, glowing, unflinching. Alicia whispered, "Dr. Jackson, thank you." Jenny smiled. "Thank you for listening." The lights faded to black as the crowd rose for a standing ovation. The sound swelled, not just applause, but release. And in that moment, Jenny wasn't just the woman from the viral video. She was a symbol of restraint, power, and the kind of courage that doesn't shout to be heard. Outside, Miami's skyline shimmered like a crown. The city that once watched her in silence now stood still, listening. Success always comes with a receipt. Jenny learned that the hard way. A week after the televised interview, The glow of admiration began to flicker into the gray of consequence. Emails piled up, lawsuits appeared like storm clouds, and every phone call carried both opportunity and threat. Inside JJ Aesthetics and Spa, the lobby was busier than ever. But so were the whispers. A few clients canceled quietly. A few sponsors called their lawyers. And through it all, Jenny moved with the same calm precision she'd shown since the beginning. Pamela entered her office holding a thick envelope. "Doctor, this just came by courier, from the Stewart legal team." Jenny didn't even flinch. "Let me guess. Cease and desist?" Pamela nodded. "They're claiming defamation. They want you to retract your statements publicly." Jenny leaned back in her chair, eyes narrowing. "So the woman who told me to shut up still thinks she can decide when I speak." She opened the envelope, reading each line without a single change in expression. Then she smiled faintly. "Beautifully written. Completely empty." Thomas walked in just in time to hear her. "Empty or not, Jenny, they have money. They can drag this out for years." Jenny stood walking toward the window. The afternoon light cut through the blinds, painting bars of gold across her face. "Let them. I built this clinic from nothing but faith and grit. I can survive a few lawyers with too much free time." Thomas sighed. "You're fearless?" She turned, half smiling. "No, I'm just done being afraid." That evening, the city glowed in the reflection of rain. Jenny sat in her car outside the clinic, the radio humming with fragments of news. Dr. Jenny Jackson faces new legal pressure from the Stewart family, but public support remains strong. She turned the radio off. In the silence, her own heartbeat sounded louder than the storm. Then her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You think you won? Watch what happens next." Jenny stared at it for a long second, then deleted it. She whispered, "Fear needs an audience. I'm not giving it one." She started the car and drove toward the bay, the skyline shimmering like scattered diamonds. When she reached the water, she parked and stepped out, the wind pulling at her hair. The ocean stretched endlessly before her. Every wave sounded like a question. Was it worth it? Her mind replayed the faces, the slap, the shame, the applause, the power. She closed her eyes. "Oh, yes," she murmured. "Every bruise, every doubt. Worth it." The next morning, headlines changed again. Stewart family under federal investigation. Dr. Jackson's testimony requested in discrimination inquiry. Jenny looked at the article over breakfast, barely reacting. Pamela called seconds later. "Doctor, they want you to testify in Washington. This is huge." Jenny smiled into her coffee. "It's not huge. It's necessary." Pamela hesitated. "You sure you want to keep going? You could step back now. Protect yourself." Jenny looked out her window, the sunlight bright over Biscayne Bay. "Pamela, protection is for people who still think they can be broken." At noon, she walked through the clinic, staff parting quietly as she passed. Some whispered, "Thank you." Some just smiled. Jenny acknowledged each of them with a nod, her silent promise that the clinic was still their safe space. In her office, she signed documents, planned expansions, approved new scholarships under her foundation. Every action, one more answer to hate. Then she paused at her desk, noticing the old flash drive lying beside her pen, the symbol of everything she'd endured. She picked it up, turned it in her hand, and whispered, "Truth always costs something. But silence costs everything." The camera would have pulled back then. Jenny standing by the window, Miami glittering beneath her, the rain gone, the city alive, the woman who paid the price of truth and found it was still a bargain. Night blanketed Miami in stillness. No cameras, no headlines, no noise. Just the hum of city lights reflecting off the bay, and somewhere high above, the soft glow of Jenny Jackson's penthouse windows. Inside, the world was slower. A single candle burned on the marble counter. Papers were spread across the table, legal notices, invitations, proposals, all neatly aligned. Jenny sat barefoot, hair down, reading none of them. For the first time in weeks, she allowed silence to sit beside her. The apartment was immaculate, minimalist, white, alive with the faint scent of jasmine. But in that stillness, her armor slipped. Her hand brushed the faint scar that makeup no longer needed to hide. It wasn't pain she felt, it was memory. The knock came softly. Pamela's voice followed through the door. "Doctor? You still awake?" Jenny didn't answer at first. Then quietly, "Come in." Pamela stepped inside holding 2 mugs of tea. "You looked like you needed this?" Jenny smiled gently. "You always know." They sat at the edge of the couch. For a long moment neither spoke. Rain began tapping at the glass, gentle, rhythmic, almost comforting. Pamela finally broke the silence. "You ever wish it hadn't happened? The slap, the attention, all of it?" Jenny's gaze drifted to the skyline. The lights shimmered on the water like scattered promises. "Every day," she admitted. Then after a pause, "But wishing changes nothing. Accepting changes everything." Pamela nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. "You make it look easy, Doctor." Jenny gave a quiet laugh. "Grace isn't ease, Pamela. It's control. It's choosing peace when everything in you wants to scream." The rain grew heavier. Pamela hesitated. "They said the hearing will be televised. Are you ready for that?" Jenny looked down at her tea, steam rising like ghosts of unspoken thoughts. No one's ever ready to stand alone in front of the world, but sometimes the only way to silence chaos is to walk straight into it. Pamela placed a hand over hers. "You've already changed so much." Jenny's eyes softened. "Maybe, but the hardest change is the one inside yourself, learning to forgive someone who isn't sorry." Pamela swallowed hard. "Do you forgive her?" A long silence. The candle flickered. Jenny's voice came barely above a whisper. "I'm trying." The words hung there, fragile, human, real. After Pamela left, Jenny stood by the window looking out over the sleeping city. Her reflection stared back. The public hero, the private survivor. 2 versions of the same woman, both still learning to breathe the same air. She pressed her palm against the glass, feeling the cool surface beneath her skin. "They see the strength," she murmured, "but they never see the cost." Her phone buzzed on the counter, a calendar reminder. Federal testimony, 48 hours. Jenny stared at it, then turned off the screen. The storm outside began to fade. The candle burned low, throwing soft shadows across the room. Jenny whispered to herself, not as a declaration, but as a promise. "Tomorrow I rest. The day after, I rise again." The camera would have pulled back slowly, the faint light of dawn beginning to touch the horizon, the woman silhouetted against it, alone, unguarded, and utterly real. Washington, D.C. A gray sky, cameras flashing. Outside the marble steps of the federal hearing hall, the world waited. Dozens of reporters crowded the entrance, microphones raised, voices overlapping. "Dr. Jackson, are you nervous? Do you plan to sue the Stewarts? What message do you want to send today?" Jenny Jackson stepped from the black car, surrounded by quiet, disciplined security. She wore a tailored charcoal suit, hair pulled into a sleek bun, no jewelry, the picture of composure. She didn't respond to the noise. She didn't need to. Her silence had weight now. Inside, the hearing room buzzed. Government officials, attorneys, journalists, every seat filled. A nameplate on the long table read, "Dr. Jenny Jackson, M.D., Witness." She took her seat. Across from her sat a panel of 6, lawmakers, legal officers, a federal ethics chair. At the center, Senator Holt, gray-haired, steady-voiced. "Dr. Jackson," he began, Thank you for appearing voluntarily. You understand this hearing concerns not only the Stewart case, but wider issues of racial discrimination within private businesses? Jenny nodded once. Yes, Senator. Her voice carried easily through the chamber. Calm, controlled, not a trace of nerves. Please tell us, Holt continued, in your own words, what happened that day. Jenny drew a slow breath, and then she spoke. It began like any other morning. A client came into my clinic angry before I'd even greeted her. When she realized the person speaking to her wasn't who she imagined should own the place, she decided to correct the world with her hand. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Jenny didn't look up. Her focus stayed forward, her tone unwavering. The slap wasn't the worst part. The words were, because they carried something older than either of us, something society still pretends doesn't exist in rooms lined with chandeliers. She paused. The silence pressed down like gravity. People think discrimination is always loud, but sometimes it's polite smiles, quiet exclusions, closed doors. That day, it just happened to wear perfume and a diamond bracelet. A few members of the audience nodded. Others wiped at their eyes. Senator Holt leaned forward. Dr. Jackson, you had every right to retaliate or sue immediately. Why didn't you? Jenny looked up, her eyes clear. Because revenge doesn't educate. If I screamed, she'd have called me angry. If I cried, she'd have called me weak. So I stayed silent, until silence became strategy. The chamber went still. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. Holt exhaled slowly. And what do you hope this hearing achieves? Jenny's answer came without hesitation. That accountability stops being optional. That respect becomes policy, not politeness. A murmur swept through the audience. Agreement, admiration, awe. Jenny continued, her voice softer now. Every system that tolerates prejudice eventually teaches it. It's time we teach something better. Senator Holt looked down at his notes, then back up. Dr. Jackson, thank you. You may step down. Jenny stood. As she walked past the press gallery, flashes erupted again, but this time they felt less like intrusion and more like illumination. Outside, the crowd cheered as she emerged into the sunlight. Pamela and Thomas were waiting at the car, eyes bright with pride. Pamela whispered, "You did it." Jenny smiled softly. "No, we just started it." The camera would have followed her into the crowd, the hum of admiration surrounding her, the city alive with the echo of her words. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was walking away from a battle. She was walking toward change. Weeks passed. The hearings were over, but Jenny's name still echoed through the city like a quiet anthem. People recognized her in cafes, in hospitals, in airport terminals. Some whispered, "Thank you." Others simply smiled, as if her victory had given them permission to stand taller. Yet Jenny knew the story couldn't end with applause. Justice had to become action. Inside JJ Aesthetics and Spa, sunlight poured through the glass walls, painting the space in gold. The air smelled of lavender and eucalyptus. But beyond the luxury, something new was being born. Jenny stood before her team, a small group of women from different backgrounds, nurses, therapists, assistants, students. On the whiteboard behind her, in bold handwriting, 3 words, "The Aurora Project." Pamela looked curious. "Doctor, what is this exactly?" Jenny smiled. "It's what comes next." She turned to face them fully. Every week, women walk into clinics like ours, not just looking for beauty, but for belonging. Some of them carry invisible scars, from prejudice, from violence, from words that left marks deeper than bruises. Her tone softened, filled with purpose. So we're creating a space for them here. Free sessions, counseling, self-esteem recovery, not just skin care, soul care. Thomas folded his arms, moved. "You're turning pain into purpose." Jenny nodded. Oh, that's the only way pain makes sense. Pamela's eyes shone. And you're calling it aurora? Yes, Jenny said softly, because even the longest night ends with light. The team exchanged glances, inspired, emotional. Jenny continued outlining the plan: partnerships with psychologists, mentorship programs, self-worth workshops, and scholarships for young Black and brown women studying aesthetics and dermatology. The more she spoke, the more the energy in the room changed. It wasn't a clinic anymore. It was a movement being born inside four white walls. Later that night, Jenny stood alone in one of the new treatment rooms, now transformed into a sanctuary. Soft lights, a mural painted by a local artist. On the wall, the phrase written in gold: "Beauty begins when dignity feels safe." Pamela appeared at the door. "They're ready for tomorrow's opening. Media's coming too." Jenny smiled faintly. "Good. Let them see what healing really looks like." Pamela hesitated. "Doctor, are you happy?" Jenny looked around the room, at the soft lights, the gold letters, the echoes of something greater than revenge. She breathed in deeply. "Happy? Not yet, but I'm whole." Pamela nodded, her eyes glistening. Jenny added quietly, "That's a better place to start." The camera would have followed her as she walked through the clinic, her reflection passing across glass and light. In every corner, new life, laughter, color, hope. The world had once tried to silence her. Now, her silence had become sanctuary. Miami glowed brighter that night. The bay shimmered like liquid gold, and at the center of it all stood the JJ Aesthetics and Spa, transformed into a place of celebration. Hundreds gathered under strings of white lights. The event wasn't about luxury this time. It was about legacy. The plaque on the stage read, "Inauguration of the Aurora Project, honoring Dr. Jenny Jackson." Reporters mingled with community leaders, survivors, and former patients. Soft music played, glasses clinked, laughter echoed, the sound of a city beginning to heal. Behind the curtain, Jenny adjusted her minimalist cream dress. Pamela entered, beaming. "The mayor's here, and, there's a surprise." Jenny smiled. "I told you, I don't do surprises." Pamela grinned wider. "You'll like this one." Moments later, the lights dimmed. The crowd fell silent. The MC's voice filled the air. "Tonight we honor a woman who turned humiliation into hope and pain into power, Dr. Jenny Jackson." Applause erupted. Jenny stepped onto the stage, her silhouette framed by golden light. For a heartbeat, she just stood there, quiet, absorbing the sound, the faces, the energy. Then gently she spoke. "When that day happened, I thought my story would end in silence, but I learned that sometimes silence is where rebirth begins." The crowd leaned closer. "This clinic isn't just mine anymore," Jenny continued. "It belongs to every woman who's ever been told she's less. Every person who's ever had to prove they deserve to stand where they already belong." A murmur of emotion swept through the crowd. Jenny's tone softened. "We don't rise by fighting hate with hate. We rise by refusing to shrink for it." Applause thundered again, some people standing, others wiping tears. Pamela stood at the side of the stage, proud beyond words. Then the MC stepped forward. "Dr. Jackson, the city of Miami would like to present you with this recognition for leadership, courage, and for reminding us that compassion is power." He handed her a crystal award shaped like a flame. Jenny looked at it for a long second, the reflection of light flickering across her hands. "It's beautiful," she said softly, "but the real light is out there." She gestured toward the audience, toward the survivors, the staff, the women whose lives had changed because of Aurora. The crowd erupted once more. But before stepping away, Jenny looked back at the flame in her hand and whispered, just loud enough for the microphone to catch, "You told me to shut up." Now the whole city is speaking. The camera would have followed her walking down from the stage, the crowd parting around her. Flashlights glowed, faces smiled, and for the first time in months, Jenny's laughter, free, bright, unguarded, filled the night. Above the clinic, fireworks burst over the bay, gold, white, soft pink, reflecting off the water like new beginnings. And for one beautiful moment, Miami didn't just shine. It glowed. 6 months later, Miami had changed, and so had Jenny Jackson. The Aurora Project had become a national model, replicated in clinics across the country. Women from all walks of life came to find healing where once there had been humiliation. Inside the original clinic, morning sunlight poured through tall glass windows. The space was alive with quiet joy, soft laughter, the hum of machines, the scent of jasmine and sea air. Jenny walked through the hallway, her heels echoing on the marble floor. Staff greeted her with smiles. A few clients stopped her for hugs. Every thank you felt like a page in a book she never planned to write but was proud to have lived. Pamela followed with a folder. "Doctor, we just got the confirmation. You've been invited to speak at the Global Wellness Summit in Geneva." Jenny smiled faintly. "Geneva. That's poetic." Pamela tilted her head. "You're going?" Jenny stopped by the glass door leading to the new Aurora Lounge. Inside, a group of young women were in session, one painting, one meditating, one simply breathing in peace. Jenny watched them, her voice soft. "I used to think revenge was power, but I've learned that peace is louder." Pamela smiled. "So, Geneva?" Jenny turned back, eyes bright. "Yes, let's show them what healing looks like in action." Later that day, Jenny stood on the clinic's rooftop terrace overlooking Biscayne Bay. The city shimmered beneath her, alive, loud, proud. She held her phone, scrolling through hundreds of messages from women worldwide. Stories of resilience, gratitude, transformation. She stopped at one. "Because of you, I spoke up today." And for the first time, they listened. Jenny's eyes softened. She whispered to herself, "That's the real award." Behind her, Thomas joined quietly, holding a cup of coffee. "You realize, right? You started something you can't stop now." Jenny smiled, watching the horizon. "Good. Because neither can hope." The wind carried her words away over the water, the same bay that once mirrored her pain, now reflecting only light. That evening, the clinic closed its doors for the night. Jenny turned off the last light standing in the quiet glow of the lobby. On the wall, beneath the gold letters that read JJ Aesthetics and Spa, another plaque had been added. The Aurora Foundation, founded by Dr. Jenny Jackson, for every woman who refused to stay silent. Jenny ran her fingers gently over the engraved words. Then, with a deep breath, she whispered, "Silence used to be my prison. Now, it's my peace." She walked out into the warm Miami night. The city lights shimmered like stars below her feet. A gentle smile crossed her face, serene, unstoppable. "They told me to shut up," she murmured, "but I was just learning how to speak." The camera rose slowly, pulling back as Jenny disappeared down the boulevard, the glow of the clinic behind her, the sound of waves blending with soft music, a symphony of rebirth.